from Your Black World and the Black Business School. And I want to welcome you guys to the Black Financial Channel. That's theblackfinancialchannel.com. Make sure you subscribe if you like Black financial news and commentary on a daily basis. Then make sure you subscribe to theblackfinancialchannel.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at the Black Financial Channel, and you can follow me on Instagram at the Real Voice Walking. So today, what I wanted to talk about real quick with you guys. Sorry, let me mute myself. What I wanted to talk about today was I wanted to answer a question that somebody asked, and I saw an article on the topic today, so I thought it might actually help in terms of getting some perspective on everything that we're living through, everything that's going on. A lot of you are seeing what's going on with the Rona and how that's affecting not just people's lives and health, but also the economy. A lot of people are getting to the point where money's a little bit tight. Things are tough for people, and I want to make sure that we are humane enough to not keep this quarantine going longer than it needs to go. I think once you know everybody's safe, then at that point the question is, can you make sure that they're whole so they're not living in the streets and starving to death? So anyway, so my goal has been always to basically find out the truth and figure out what's really going on, because as you guys know, I really don't trust media that much. I think media has a set of very, somewhat warped incentives sometimes. So I like to sort of do, triple back research on certain things to find out what's going on. So what was it that was on my mind today? What led me to even want to have this line of thought? Well, I got a message from my friend today. I'm not going to say my friend's name, but I'm going to say that my friend is somebody that I trust. And my friend told me that she had a cousin who just died. And when this cousin died, the cousin died from stomach cancer. Right. So this week, her cousin died from stomach cancer. I was like, wow, that's really sad. I'm sorry to hear that. And she tells me, yeah, but they diagnosed his stomach cancer as coronavirus. Right. Like they said, OK, he's got stomach cancer, but he also had coronavirus. He also got corona. He also died of the Rona. Now, this does not mean that he didn't have corona. Maybe he did, and maybe the corona contributed to his stomach cancer death. Right. But I was a little bit concerned about that because that's something I have been hearing from a lot of places. I've been hearing from doctors who make jokes that say that, since the money's right, then everybody that dies need to be dying from corona so we can get some money up in this mug. And so let me kind of break some of this down for you. USA Today did an analysis on this topic that I thought was worth covering and talking about today. I want to also, before I move forward, type your B1 in the chat and make sure that we're on code. Black people come first here. The Black community matters more than any other community. So type B1 in the chat if you agree. Use the hashtag B1. That stands for Black First, or B1. We must be one in order to move forward. Anyway, let me go in here and jump in and read some of this. Hey, what's going on, Bridge City? I see you in there. All right. So USA Today did an analysis on something that was stated by a senator. The senator actually went on Fox News. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that we make is we assume that if somebody says something on CNN or if they say it on Fox News, then it's not true because they said it on Fox News, right? And that's not, I don't believe that. I watch MSNBC a little bit, I watch CNN a little bit, I watch Fox News a little bit. And while I know everybody has their spin, I know everybody tells their lies, I'm not going to write off what somebody said just because they were on Fox News. And I think that in this cancel culture, that's one of the mistakes that we make, is that somebody will come to you with some relevant, truthful information, and all somebody has to say is, well, they said it on Fox News, so it ain't true. Well, did you investigate? Did you find out? I mean, if somebody comes to you and tells you, hey, I found out that your brother is slinging drugs on the corner, and you say, yeah, well, he don't really like my brother, so that means it ain't true. Well, no, just because he don't like your brother don't mean it ain't true. Just because he might be telling you for the wrong reasons, that don't mean it ain't true, right? So y'all need to stop all that, like this whole discrediting thing. Like, I'm going to discredit this person's opinion because I don't like where they're coming from, or because they made a mistake in the past, or because, they told a lie 5 years ago, or whatever. Like, I think that's kind of silly. What you at least do is you should investigate, because I've seen that's a dirty political trick. When Cornel West was critiquing President Obama and really, kind of leaning into him in his neglect of the Black community, all they did was they basically went to their black surrogates. This is politics. This is how they do the game. They went to their black surrogates like Melissa Harris Perry and Michael Eric Dyson, and they gave them access to the Atlantic. And basically, they had them write hit pieces on Cornel West to discredit Cornel West, right? And so basically, when I discredit you, or I say, oh, the only reason he's asking that question is because he's just mad because his mama didn't get inauguration tickets or whatever, because that's what they were saying about Cornel West. Cornel West came back and said, yeah, I was mad that my mama didn't get inauguration tickets, but now you need to still answer the question. And so what people do in politics, this is just a silly game. This game should not work on intelligent people. And I only want intelligent people, critical thinkers, to come to the platform who want to be smarter. You ain't got to be smart. You can come in the door not smart, but I'm going to challenge you to get smarter. And a critical thinker says, okay, yeah, we know that he might have had bad motivations for asking the question, but now we need you to answer the question, right? So what they'll do, though, is they will never touch the question. They'll only focus on the other party's right to even ask the question. Right. So basically, when you talk about so here's what happened. So there was a senator named Jensen, I think that was his name, who went on to Scott Jensen from Minnesota, who's a Republican. He went on to the Ingram angle, and which was on Fox News. Right. So again, Republican Fox News, Laura Ingram. That right there will cause a lot of liberals to shut their brains off. They don't want to. If you say any of those things, they can't hear it at that point, which is why half of them remain pretty ignorant, because they only get half the truth. Right. And I just hate that. I think that's the most ridiculous thing in the world, when you only hear people who are in your political party. And so Scott Jensen went on Fox, and he basically said that hospitals get paid more if Medicare patients are listed as having COVID-19 and get 3 times more money if they need a ventilator. He says, quote, "How can anybody not believe that increasing the number of COVID-19 deaths may create an avenue for states to receive a larger portion of federal dollars? Already, some states are complaining that they are not getting enough of the CARES Act dollars because they have a significantly more proportional COVID-19 deaths." Jensen said hospital administrators might well want to see COVID-19 attached to a discharge summary or a death certificate. Why? Because if it's a straightforward garden variety pneumonia that a person's admitted to the hospital for, if they're Medicare, typically the diagnosis-related group lump sum payment would be $5,000. But if it's COVID-19 pneumonia, then it's $13,000. And if that COVID-19 pneumonia patient ends up on a ventilator, it goes up to $39,000. So what Senator Jensen was laying out here was a plausible theory that, I know that it's hard to believe. I know it's hard to believe that money might motivate people's actions in a capitalist system. I know it's hard for y'all to believe in a capitalist society that money might actually make a difference in people's decision making. But he's basically saying that because you get so much more money, I mean, 39,000 versus 5,000 is a big jump. So because you're getting so much more money to diagnose COVID, that he said a lot of people might be doing that. Now, what USA Today did, I'm going to save you the time to read the article. I'll put the article in the chat. In fact, I'll put it in the chat right now if anybody wants to take a look at it now. And I'll also put it in the comments. Basically, shoot, I can't put it in the chat. The link is too long. I'll put it in the comments afterward on the Black Financial Channel, theblackfinancialchannel.com if you want to read it. So, basically what USA Today concluded was they did a lot of research. They researched the CARES Act. They spoke to doctors at, esteemed hospitals and universities. And basically, they concluded that it is true that you do get a lot more money if you diagnose as COVID. And then also they said, I think one of the physicians at some organization said something like, let me see, it was really interesting what the responses were. Okay, so Fact Check weighed in. Fact Check said the figures cited by Jensen generally square with the estimated Medicare payments for COVID-19 hospitalizations based on average Medicare payments for patients with similar diagnoses. So they're confirming the payments. They said their conclusion was recent legislation pays hospitals higher Medicare rates for COVID-19 patients and treatments, but there is no evidence of fraudulent reporting. So they're saying that we have no evidence that anybody is gaming the system, right? Even though the states are struggling financially, a lot of states and cities are going to be on the verge of bankruptcy after this is done, because you can't run a state without an economy. You can't run a state when you have no tax base because all your workers and all your workers are staying home. You can't run a state when every business is closed. And so it's going to murder your tax revenue. So this idea that that there might be people gaming the system is quite plausible. Now, here's the thing: if there were a way to prove whether or not there's fraud, I can get that, right? The problem is that if the fraud is occurring, there's no way to really track that. Why is that? Well, let me ask you this. Give me a yes or no. If I want to write COVID-19 on somebody's death certificate, do I need to actually take a test to prove that? Yes or no? Give me a yes or no. Do I actually need to test the patient to determine if they really had COVID, or if I'm just filling out the death certificate, putting anything on it? I got a sister that fills out death certificates, so I'm gonna go ahead and tell you that the answer is no, right? A lot of times what they'll do is they'll say, they look like they had some of the symptoms, so we're going to put COVID here. And then they throw them in the incinerator and they cremate the body because there's no funerals and, none of that stuff. It's like, let's get rid of the evidence that we might, have made something up or told a lie. And now where does this come from? Well, this correlates to what I'm hearing on the ground in terms of my friend whose cousin died of stomach cancer, who said that, she said, I was stunned when they put COVID-19 on the death certificate because he has stomach cancer. He was going to die because he was already very, very sick. And which again goes back to the idea that there are so many comorbidities connected, which should just remind you that you live in a capitalist society. There are few institutions that are more capitalist than your American healthcare system, so they got to find a way to make that bread. And so while they're not gonna, I don't think they're gonna do outright fraud and say let's just lie and game the system. Some people might do that. I could see hospital administrators who are trying to find a way to generate revenue saying, let's better safe than sorry. Let's go ahead and do what we got to do just in case, right? Just in case, right? You know what it makes me think about? When you throw in these situations where human beings can make arbitrary decisions without any sort of formal validation process for that decision making, it makes me think about how in a lot of your public schools, this is why I really believe black children should be taken out of public schools for the most part. I believe black children should be educated by black people, ideally, if possible. The reason is because, can anybody tell me in the chat which group of children is most likely to be placed in special education? Which group? Black boys, black girls, white boys, or white girls, or Asian kids, or whatever? Which group of that group is most likely to be placed in special education? Black boys. Now, here's what's fascinating about that, right? When you look at scenarios where you must validate the disability, like things that are clear, like blindness, like if a kid's blind or if they're not blind, or if they're deaf, if they're deaf or not deaf, then black boys tend to be placed in those special groups based on their percentage of the population. Black boys are about 6.5% of the population, so they become about 6.5% of the blind kids, 6.5% of the deaf kids, or the variation isn't very high, right? There's no sort of weird distortion there. Now, when they get to the arbitrary diagnoses, like, we think little Tyrone might have ADHD because Tyrone, gets in trouble in school, right? The arbitrary diagnoses, the numbers start to skyrocket. Black boys become overwhelmingly, persistently placed in those special programs. When it comes to putting kids on medication, to calm their behavior, to control these out of control black males in their mind, right? The black boys are disproportionately selected for this, right? Now, well, why are they doing that? Well, I don't think that these people are thinking, I really want to destroy the black male. And I really want to go get this paper because I'm an unethical person and a crook, and I want to go steal and get extra federal funds because I've got more disabled children in my school. No, they're thinking, well, better safe than sorry. We really want to help this kid. So in order to help this kid, we're going to get the medication. We're going to get him put in the special program. We're going to disable him. Even if he's not disabled, we're going to disable him by labeling him as disabled so that he will then begin to emulate the behavior of a disabled child who doesn't think he can do anything without his medication, right? And so it doesn't mean I don't think somebody doesn't deserve medication. It just means that I think that we over-medicate. My mother was warned when I was 5 years old. I was a really active child. I was a really, like rambunctious kid. I always was. I had energy. I was a little boy, and I was 5 years old, and the kindergarten teacher, this young white woman, talked to my mother, and she said, your son has a lot of energy, and she said, but he's very smart. She said that his brain is just active. One day he got up and he was jumping up and down, and he was running around, and she said, I was thinking I'm gonna teach him a lesson. So she saw me get up and walk around the class, and she let me do what I was gonna do. And then she felt like she said, I'm gonna embarrass him by asking him to tell me everything that I just put on the board. And she said that when she stopped me and said, okay, boys, so explain what I just put on the board. She said I explained everything to her. Like I took it all in, but I took it in while I was doing this and doing that and multitasking, right? And I'm still the same way. I'm still that same rambunctious kid. It's just I'm in the body of a 48-year-old man, right? But I'm the same way. Like Alicia will be talking to me, and I'll be sitting on my phone, scrolling through my phone, or I'll be watching the game, and she'll think I'm not listening. I'm like, babe, I heard everything you said. It's just my brain has empty space. So sometimes I'll fill it by watching the game or by just, scrolling through something on the phone, but I'm hearing every word, right? So ultimately, that is an example of a scenario where you probably got millions and millions and millions of black children, millions of black boys who are absolutely brilliant children who are going to be made unbrilliant because they're put into special ed. And once they get put into special ed, we know they're not going to be really taught to read the way the other kids are. They're going to be constantly given a crutch for why they can't keep up with the other kids, and they're going to put them on medication, which creates a dependency. So if they had done that to me, if they put me in special ed, told me that, gave me excuses, like anytime anything got hard, I would give up because I'd say, well, I'm disabled, so of course I can't succeed. Of course I can't pass that test, right? But really, maybe if I just tried harder, I could have gotten it. But why would you try harder when, they told you that it's worthless to try anyway? You don't try things that you think are going to be a waste of time, right? So I would have morphed myself into the disabled kid. Like the disability would have been a labeling that disabled me, right? So a lot of your children get disabled in that way, and I want to say that to the parents that are watching. Especially, I know we got a lot of moms that are unfortunately are doing it themselves. Y'all know I'm a big believer in black fathers, and I know that there's a lot of good fathers in here too. So I'm gonna shout you guys out. But generally speaking, I believe the mother is a really important decision maker in the life of that child, and the father is as well. But with that mother, I just want to encourage you, like with your sons, I gave my mother hell. I gave my mother complete hell. I was not, like you might think that because I'm doing what I do now that I was like this wonderful child. No, I fought her tooth and nail, and it was her willingness to fight for me and fight with me that led me to have a chance to be successful. Hey, something wrong? I'm online, baby. Oh, so do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up button, share and subscribe button. And Alicia's down here doing a happy dance. So apparently there must be something she's trying to tell me. So I'm gonna let her write me a little note. Anyway, I'm gonna go, guys. But my conclusion on this is that you cannot talk about any of this corona stuff without talking about the economics behind it. You can't talk about any of this without talking about the economy. You can't talk about any of this without talking about people's bank accounts and their need to get out and work. You can't talk about any of this without talking about the financial incentives that exist in the system, that multi-trillion-dollar stimulus package. When stimulus packages are created by the government, everybody lines up to get paid. Everybody's thinking, ooh, this is a disaster. They're putting money into this. I'm going to go get that money. So don't ever think for a second that money is not a part of the equation. You cannot talk about coronavirus without talking about the economics of it. It doesn't mean that you don't care about human life. Because I've had people say that. I've had people say, well, all you care about is the stock market and the economics and your wealth and your money. And I'm sitting here like, like really? Like, no, come on, get out of here with that stuff. Like that's to me, that's a juvenile way to look at it, because you can't talk about life in a vacuum. You can't just talk about the virus and not talk about the realities of it all. I just think it's kind of silly. Like, why can't you talk about both? Why can't I say, look, I want to stay alive, but I also want to live a decent life where I can feed my family. So, and stop telling me that if I go outside, that means I'm going to die. That's not true. If that's true, then I bet you $1 million right now that I'm not going to die if I go outside. And if I live, then you owe me $1 million. Would you take that bet? I hope you ain't stupid enough to take that bet, because that would be a very bad bet based on the probability. So let's grow up and have a mature conversation about this, a balanced conversation about this, a nuanced conversation about this, instead of having a one-dimensional conversation about this. So that's it. That's all I wanted to share with you guys. Hit the thumbs up button, share, and subscribe button, and also subscribe to the Black Financial Channel, theblackfinancialchannel.com. A reminder, also, some of you may be filmmakers or something like that, or making movies. You guys know we're building a Black Hollywood right now. I had a meeting today with Marcus Small, who was in our last Black movie night, and he agreed to make a sequel to The Melanin Code, which was a huge hit. Everybody loved it. And I told him, you got, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people that are committed to supporting the film. And so he's going to go ahead and get that done. And then also Rick Mathis, another filmmaker that we work with, is holding a trailer competition. So, meaning that if you have a film and you have a trailer and you want your trailer considered so that your film can be featured on a Black movie night, then you can actually register. Go to blackmovienight.net. That's blackmovienight.net. So there's room for the filmmakers and room for film viewers. Those of you who like Black movies, there's a role for you too. Your role is you're going to vote on the best trailer for which film will be featured in the Black movie night, right? So you can register as the viewer, and the filmmakers can register to present their trailer and be interviewed and get some exposure and some shine on your projects and stuff like that. And we just want to support homegrown Black-owned industries so that we can build things. Do you get what I'm saying? Give me a confirmation in the chat if everything I said made sense, if everything I said just added up, because I want to make sure that we're on the same page. You understand what we're trying to do here, because I could really use your help. I would really appreciate it if you just said, yeah, I'd love to come to Black movie night and see these Black movies and get to decide like which projects are going to be supported in your community, which filmmakers do you like? Because if you tell us who you like, then we can give you more of who you like, which will incentivize you, hopefully, to say, I got $10, I'm gonna buy that movie, whatever, right? And then next thing you know, we got a thing popping here. We got an industry here. That's how you build industry. The last piece is that if you are homeschooling your children, which everybody is actually, and you want tips and support on homeschooling, there are free homeschool training sessions offered every week by Nomalanga Mushali Moses, and you can register for the next one at theblackHomeschoolNetwork.com. Don't forget that THE. That's theblackHomeschoolNetwork.com. So go to theblackHomeschoolNetwork.com if you'd like to attend one of the free homeschool training sessions. And of course, if you want to learn to buy your first share of stock and you haven't become an investor yet, go to firstshareofstock.com. There's a free training there where you can learn how to buy your first share of stock. That's firstshareofstock.com. All right, guys, I gave you a lot of stuff there. I hope that this helps you, and thank you for listening. And it was real. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.